Hello all, welcome to the channel. And today we're gonna discuss about the SAP Business One is to SDK introduction, and we're gonna cover the 5 things in this one. I'm gonna talk about the detailed architecture of SAP Business One, how it is coupled with the HANA and SQL. Then I'm gonna discuss about the SAP Business One SDK, how DI API work, how the service layer interact with the SAP Business One, and how the UI API. And I'm going to discuss everything in abstract and by giving you a deep introduction on every topic. And I'm going to discuss everything in detail right after this. So as you can see in the diagram, it's illustrate the whole solution, like when all the components are located in one environment, right? So the add-on of the SAP Business One is interacted to by the ODBC connection, either using the HANA or SQL in the board database environment. And an add-on of SAP Business One can be extended with the functionality to operate with the data using the SAP Business One service layer as well. And the service layer is basically interacted with the ODBC connection as well inside the SAP Business One. And in general, there can be only one single version of add-on operating on these supported platform. And the add-on is basically anything that can be implemented for the extension of existing functionality, or to customizing the current SAP Business One forms, or changing any business flow. That's all can be into the add-on, and the requirement of the add-ons can be varied as well. So let's talk about a bit about the SAP Business One HANA for now. And if we see the solution right here, then SAP Business One HANA is basically here we can see a tightly coupled solution. And it simply means that it is strongly connected to the environment and deployed as a HTML-based extension on SAP Business One HANA Access Engine, which can be enabled from SAP Business One HANA Studio, which we'll see in the future videos. And the solution consuming the SAP Business One data using the SAP Business One Service Layer technology that can be directly connected to the HANA as well. And it can be consumed also using the web browser in the mobile application, and also the desktop like on premise as well, right? So if you see a closer look in the loosely coupled model in here, is basically the SAP cloud platform which run and interact with SAP Business One using the SAP service layer technology. And this kind of solution is completely independent from the SAP Business One life cycle, right? So on the cloud, the solution have the wide range of technology in order to communicate with external services like like the IoT, SDK, machine learning, FIORI, anything or anything. And the digital code of SAP Business One stays like untouched, and it's gonna be the core thing with no or a small customization. So usually in the real life architecture, it is more complex than we saw in the previous slides, and the customer implementation require the various extension based on the proper business model and on the requirement about the add-ons. And if the customer requires some additional feature, then it is achieved by a DI API, UI API, service layer, and the interaction with the UI API And the best option to run the local web service is deploying the extension as a tightly coupled way and directly into the SAP HANA Access Engine. And that's how you can write your own logic into the HTML5, FIORI, and other platform, and to interact with the SAP Business One. And for the loosely coupled solution can be the best option is like, for example, like the payment gateway, delivery companies, map services, etc. Right? So the SAP Business One, if you will see, is basically deployment feasibility, flexibility is on premises or in the cloud. The on premises is more into like a desktop application, and the cloud is like SAP Business One based on the cloud, and it can be the license are the different for both of them, and the on premises does not need any internet connection, so you can run it locally in your computer like any other application. But on the other hand, cloud is need the internet connection all the time, and they both can be deployed into the Microsoft SQL or SAP HANA database. And the HANA is basically running on in-memory technology. Then the SAP Business One on the top of that is a core which cover all the standard SAP Business One process. And if there is there is some process missing or some gaps or some additional requirement come, then that can be fulfilled by the SDK or the service layer of interface of SAP Business One HANA. On the top of that, there is a B1 IF, which called the integration framework right now, and it is the robust integration and collaboration of whole SAP Business One to the HANA, right? And on the top of that, that could be the multiple third-party application like the reporting and some other analytical dashboard and some other application that can be used. Right. So SAP Business One is like basically implemented into the two-layer architecture, as we can see. And the system is based on the HANA or SQL is like stored in the centrally. The business logic is mostly processed on the client and the file client, and in detail, like there could be the business object which interact and connected to the database. And there are several built-in integration capability like Microsoft Office integration and payment and adoption and all those other things. Can be done. There is also a UDO feature in the SAP Business One itself to enhance the data, to enhance the tables and the mapping and creating the new fields of existing forms. And we will see all those things into the near future for sure into the same playlist. Now let's talk about the SAP Business One SDK. The SAP Business One SDK is basically is the customization capability so powerful. And as you can see in the SAP Business One, on the top of SAP Business One, there is a SDK. And on the using the SDK, the other SAP add-ons and the partner add-ons interact with SAP Business One. So however, with the customization, it cannot be solved every requirement. So the source code of SAP Business One is not accessible, right? And therefore, you can use the SDK to develop the required solution. Right, so SDK has a powerful customization capability, and you can change the existing system, and you can modify the UI, like the user interface, the SAP Business One client using the UI API technology, right? And the data related changes can be performed with the DI API and the service layer. However, not all the objects are changed using this technology, and that can why it cannot answer all the requirement, right? So you can use the several solution which has been created by SAP, but if the implementation requires some industry specific feature, then the SDK would be the solution and the answer of every question, because it's have the powerful customization tool to enable SAP Business One to customize in any way to adopt the company requirement. Now in the current UI, you can see that the whole architecture of SAP Business One component related to SDK, right? And this The different APIs includes in the SDK use open Microsoft standard that allow access to IoT or business objects. A lot of business objects provided by the SAP Business One, and API runs and installed in the SAP Business One client application, except for the DI server, which is the part of SAP Business One server tool installation, right? And you can access the SAP Business One on the business data through the DI API, and most SAP Business One or business object are exposed in this API, right? And then can be accessed by the external program. And if you prefer Java, use the Java connector to access from the third-party application, right? And on the business data level through the DI server. The DI server is the DCOM service, and that run on the SAP Business One server and accept the XML data back in a SOAP, Simple Object Access Protocol envelope. And on the UI API, right? In the UI API, like in the SAP Business One, it provide access to a running application where you can add or modify the forms, and also provide your own event handler to actively influence the existing business logic, right? And in addition to that, a UDO, the business objects, you can define your own business object, you can define your objects, and that are joined to the SAP Business One object collection. And that would be exposed by itself. So basically the SAP Business One installation, you will get the official document of SDK, UIDI, UI API, DI API, database table reference, and additional help document and code sample for C#, Visual Basic, and UI, DI API, and DI server. Additional tool like the add-on extension, registration data generator, and all the other tool would be already completely available into the SAP Business One package, and I already showed you how to install the SAP Business One SDK in my previous video, so you can check that out too. There is one of the important DLL called SAP Business One SDK.dll. This is the combination of DI API and UI API libraries, and you have to add the reference into your project before starting creation of your own add-on solution. And this DLL is contain all the references and the class of the SAP Business One. So there is only one set of API and no debug or release. So that can be compatible with the both version of the add-on. And by installing the SAP Business One client, the running time for the UI and DI API is installed as well. So for the product to development, the SAP Business One client installation is needed. So you're gonna need a client. And if you like to create a pure DI API solution, then the business object installation is not required. You can just use the DI API and the standard installation. That's all you need. Then a bit talk about the DI API. This is how the client server architecture look into the DI API. And provide the object and method like add, update, delete, and all those kind of basic methods to work on the data level. And it is installing the SAP Business One client application is not required if you only gonna work for DI API. It provides access to the business object like the master data, transaction data, services, and perform the same validation as the SAP Business One client application does as well. So you can validate the data before saving something. For example, if you're creating the item master data, then it's gonna give you all the validation into the DI API level. So you can check that as well. And then it's using, you can use it as a third-party application. You can use DI API as it is, so you don't have to change anything. And you can use the compatible deployment tool like the Microsoft Visual Studio for the development. In the server, the DI server as well expose some of the services and give and it allow to communicate as well into using the DI API to the database. And DI API is designed to be used on the client side. The third-party application connected to the DI API, right, which managed to communicate with the company database. right? And the process is demonstrated in the diagram, like as you can see in the green arrow. And the DI server is designed to be used on the service side, and the web application is connected to the DI server. The DI server is communicated to the DI API, and the DI API instance that is deployed on the server side is finally the DI API manage the low-level communication with the company database from here in the black line. And this process is demonstrated as well, as you can see. So third-party application can directly into the DI server API and then company database. So there are basically the couple of scenarios where the DI API is engaged. So data level integration of existing application when it is needed to read or write the data from SAP Business One that time, and data import export scenario which are not covered into the SAP tools where the functionality of B1 application are not sufficient. And depending on the architecture of overall solution, you might consider use the DI server. So handling the data in the add-on that uses UI API, we will see in the couple of minutes. By default, writing the data to the SAP Business One database required uses the DI API, even though other technology may be faster is come to reading the data, but the DI API is often the better choices. So we're gonna work on the DI API for sure in the future coming videos. So and the another thing about the DI server is basically um, is the design to run on the server machine and supply to the lightweight SOAP based access layer. And the DI server uses the XML format as I said just to wrap the SOP envelope in addition to get the SOAP response. And based on the DI API technology, but act as a server, support all the business objects that you need and exposed by the DI API, and it enable to deploy the SOAP based solution. So there are two limitations to working with the DI APIs. Basically, first, the metadata operation are not supported in here, and the global transaction cannot be used in the DI server. Next would be the service layer. The service layer is basically exposed as well somehow from the SAP Business One, and I'm gonna talk about the fundamental and architecture and also the ODATA key points of service layer. So you will see that the using this technology, you can create the new generation of extension for consuming the B1 data and services. And service layer is using the same business object as the DI API, as I said, and with the different meaning and the design. So it's using the HTTP and OData services from the different application, the third-party application to the SAP Business One layer, and it's using the OData. The architecture allow the parallel processing. That means it's highly scalable, and you might have the multiple service layer services for the same environment. In addition, for the load balance feature provided high availability, and service layer provide a new architecture that's for the extensibility ties. Now it is easier than before to create a mobile application and web-based solution and that can be leveraged on the OLAP and development platform in one box. And this could be helpful for the different industries that gonna use this one. So the B1 layer architecture is basically a three-tier architecture. Is like client communication with the web server using the HTTP OData, and then web server relies on the database for the data per system. So SAP HANA server contain the database engine where the physical table are located, right? And the service layer, the service layer service, the communication between them is managed by the ODBC technology, as we already saw. OB server is the body of the business logic dealing with the actual work. For example, the tax calculation, posting, and so on. And all the logic and the validation is done by here. And the service layer achieving high performance and scalability by multiprocessing. So DI core is the interface for accessing SAP Business One object, and the same one that is used in the DI API, and it's handled by the same service layer mode, right? And the OData is basically that is used in here is the data in the HTTP is just the data as a resource and HTTP methods to act on it. And there is the uniform operation like get, post, patch, put, delete, and always mean the same. There is no difference on the standard one, and you can use the JSON data, atom, and there are some other filtering, CRUD operation, and some other things that we can see in the future, right? Then we will take a look a bit into the UI application. The third-party application can directly interact with a UI API. And UI API is basically the user interface API, which provides the object and method to the access screen object for the user interface, provide access to the internal system events of user events, and provide the ability to modify or add the menus, windows, or the field in the existing form or the new forms that created into the add-on. And it's provide one integrated user interface into the SAP Business One client, and the client is directly connected to the company database, right? And it can be used to like achieve the seamless integration of additional functionality with the Business One, and hooking up the Business One standard process, adding own GUI element in the standard forms, or adding own forms, as I said, and creating the own controls into the existing system forms, and manipulation the standard functionality if as per the requirement, or blocking some SAP Business One event. So that's all you can do into the whole SAP Business One SDK. That was an abstract introduction about the each things, and we're gonna see everything in detail in our upcoming videos. So stay tuned and thank you. Take care.